With Easter on the way, let's dig deep into Risen and look at the 5 reasons to investigate the resurrection. Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin. Easter's on the way, so I thought a good idea to go into this movie, Risen, and read way too much into it, but also because in less than a week, the Case for Christ movie comes out, which is a movie based off the nonfiction book by Lee Strobel, and it's a book about Lee Strobel, and it's about his investigation of the resurrection. He was an atheist, his wife became a Christian, he was an investigative reporter, so he went and did some investigating reporting and became a Christian as a result. So that's kind of the basis of the book, and so I thought, hey, let's go look at another movie that's all about investigating the resurrection. So, the 5 reasons to investigate the resurrection. Reason number 1, peace. So you have Clavius, he's the tribune, he's the main character in this movie. The movie opens with him like he's putting down a rebellion, so he's like sticky with filth from, fighting and killing. Then he gets ordered to go and make sure Jesus is dead at the crucifixion, which is a horrible thing to behold. So finally he's kind of having this like heart-to-heart with Pilate, and Pilate's like, so, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Typical boss question. And basically what we find is Clavius has this goal of peace. He says he wants a day without death. Peace. And so the way that he believes to get there and climb that ladder is to continue to climb the ladder of being that soldier and the best soldier that he could get and get promotion after promotion so that he can get power, so that he could be on that position on top, and finally being up there with wealth and glory and power can have a good wife with a good family, and finally he can have a day without death, and he can finally have peace. Which, as we get to the end of the movie, Jesus kind of, calls him on that one. And one of the things that Jesus said actually in the Last Supper, he said, "My peace I give to you." And I think it's interesting that he used the words, "My peace I give to you," and not just, overall saying, hey, your peace will rise up in you. He goes, no, I'm going to give you my peace. And I had to think for a second about what that means to have his peace. And when I thought about it, I remembered that storm that he and his disciples were in. They were in a boat out at sea. Huge storm coming. The disciples thought for sure they were going to die. And Jesus is taking a nap. So there is a death storm all about. Everybody's thinking, we will die now. Hey, where's Jesus? He's sleeping. You know how he woke up? Not from the storm, because they nudged him awake. The storm just didn't even bother him. He had no worry about it whatsoever, so he was taking a nice little nap there. And so I think that's a fascinating illustration of his peace, that not even a death storm was able to disturb his peace. And that's what he says, "My peace I give to you." So I think that's a big reason to investigate the resurrection, because it's also investigating, is he who he said he is? Does he have the authority and the power to give me his peace? Reason number 2 to investigate the resurrection, as illustrated by the movie Risen, truth. As you watch this movie, for Clavius, it starts as orders. So the Tribune gets these orders to go and figure out where is the body of Jesus. It's missing. Everybody's saying the disciples took it. So he has to investigate these claims. He's got to find the body. He's got to show proof beyond doubt that Jesus is dead. So at first, this begins as orders. But you get about halfway through this movie, and Pilate reassigns Clavius to some other place, to some other front line, to some other thing. He's Clavius, so he's got ambition. What he wants to do is climb that ladder. But now that he's been doing this investigation, something has caught hold of him. And now it's more than just his orders, because he actually asks Pilate, give me one more week. There's something about this that needs unraveling. So he really wanted that one extra week to try and figure out where the body of Jesus is. Why? Because the whole idea of truth became something important to him. One of the things he says at the end of this movie, one of his greatest fears is being wrong and wagering an eternity on it. So he didn't want to be wrong. He wanted to figure out what is the truth of this. One of the things that Jesus said is, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So there's something about getting the truth, knowing that truth, and walking in it that brings freedom. And I think innately we all know that. Like, it's hard to put our finger on how we know that, but you even look at it illustrated in this movie. That's what Clavius is looking for. He wants to know, how does the world work? He wants to know, could this possibly be real? It goes from something that is beyond belief to, well, where is his body? What is going on here? What are these claims people are throwing at me? And he absolutely could not let it go. And also, the other thing about truth is, it's world altering. The scene where Clavius walks into the room and there's Jesus alive with his disciples, it to me is my favorite scene in the movie. He sees Jesus, you see it in his eyes. His world exploded. He backs out slowly. You can tell he's kind of got that fear that constricts your throat, because, you had Draco Malfoy running up to him and being like, "We almost got him, sir." And he goes, "Go home." But he can't get the words out. He has to say it twice to tell them to stand down. And then each step for him to go back into that room where Jesus is, you can feel the weight of each step. So finding the truth in this matter was world altering, and it was something powerful, but it's something that ultimately brings freedom. So I think that's the second reason to really investigate the truth of the resurrection. Reason number 3, freedom from the fear of death. That's a big one. And as you watch this movie, first off, you get it illustrated with Bartholomew. This guy's kind of hyper. He's kind of energetic. He's kind of the comedic relief of this movie. But he's being interrogated because he's one of the 12 disciples. And Clavius is like, where is his body? Have you ever seen a crucifixion? And basically what Bartholomew does is he gets down on his knees, he spreads out his hands, and he's like, "Sign me up." If you look at this historically, when Jesus was arrested, the disciples fled. And now you have Bartholomew saying, "Sign me up." So what's the deal? What happened there? It's like that fear of death was gone. It happens again with Peter. He has one moment where he's talking to Peter, and Peter's like, "Well, I'm not afraid of dying." Like, it's like suddenly that thing is kind of gone. But the scene to me that was the most powerful in this movie, he's interrogating Mary Magdalene, trying to figure out where the disciples are, where the body of Jesus is. And she just basically responds, "If you knew what really happened here, all care would cease." Seriously, just take a moment and think about the power of just that line. Can you imagine all care, all those worries, all those fears ceasing? It's another reason to investigate the resurrection. Reason number 4, figure out why those disciples even followed him to begin with. One thing that I think this movie does well illustrating is how confused the disciples were. They were confused. Like, Clavius goes, "Didn't you know he was coming back from the dead?" They're like, "Well, he told us, but in truth, we doubted." And when you read the Bible, you see it almost feels like it's beyond doubt. He says he's going to die and rise again, and they don't have a darn clue what he's talking about. And then what you see illustrated in the movie is they're all sitting around the fire, they're cooking up some fish, and this leper comes into town. The guy with leprosy, he's dying, he's disgusting. Everybody's beating him with sticks to get him out of the town because of how utterly contagious it is. They're supposed to be in their own colony, separated from all human contact. What does Jesus do? He picks up some of the fish that they're frying, one fish, goes over and hands it over to the guy and hugs him. That's an oh no. It's an oh no, but he does it. And then the guy gets healed. Look, I think part of the reason the disciples followed him was the miracles. How could that not sway you? It's to see that kind of power demonstrated beyond amazing. But I think the other thing is, when he hugged the guy who had leprosy, the guy couldn't believe Jesus was touching him. He couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe this person got close. He couldn't believe he now had human contact because someone went past the disease and hugged him. And that was just an incredible thing. And when you look at the Bible and the history of it, the disciples just left their careers, their jobs, and everything they knew and followed him. And here they are walking around not knowing half the stuff he's even talking about, but they decided they've left everything to follow him. So there has to be something about his personality and something about the way he loved them and the way that he loved people that drew them to continuously follow him. And then on top of the fact, what does the resurrection show? It shows the height and depth of real love and just how far it will go to redeem what it truly loves. So I think that's another reason to investigate the resurrection. Last but never least, to know him. This one is closely related to number 4, but it's also related to a lot of them. At the end, when Jesus and Clavius, they're having a conversation with each other, and Jesus says, "What is it that you actually seek?" And then Jesus answers for him and says, "A day without death." Which, of course, as you could tell, like when you watch the movie, like the emotion that wells up in Clavius, it's great actor. That was a great scene. But then what Jesus says after that, he says, "Well then, know him." When you get married, you want to know your spouse. You want to know who they are, and you want to know everything about them, the warts and all. I mean, if you're going to go into this and you're going to bind your life to somebody else for forever, you kind of want to know what you're getting into. You want to know this person. And it's the same thing about Jesus. You want to know who he really is. Everything about him. Now, one of the things that C.S. Lewis said that I really liked is, if any man said the sort of things that Jesus said, you'd either call him a lunatic, or you'd call him a liar, or you'd throw yourself at his feet and call him the Son of God. But that's it. Like, those are the only reactions you get, because basically, I mean, he claimed things like he was the Son of God. That's why so many times all the religious leaders and the Pharisees, they picked up stones to stone him, because that was a blasphemous thing to say and do. That he basically claimed equality with God. He said he was the Son of God. He gets arrested. Are you the Son of God? Yes. They tear their garments and they go to kill him. You go through the book of John so many times over and over again. You know, he says, I am. I mean, that was like the sacred name of God right there. You know, what God called himself to Moses. I am that I am. So, like, there were so many moments like that, that to know him, is that real? Is he a lunatic? Is he a madman? Is he a liar? Or is he everything he said he was? That's another reason to investigate the resurrection. Is he everything that he said he was? Because if he is, that's nothing but good news. If he is, that is the most amazing, life-altering thing there is. What did you think of the movie Risen? If you saw it, let me know what you thought about it in the comments, and if you have reasons to add for the importance of investigating the resurrection, add those in the comments as well. Whether you agree with me or you disagree with me about anything I said here, really, I just want to have a conversation with you. That's why I like to do these things and talk about movies and talk about life and talk about faith. I like to have these kind of conversations, so would love to have a conversation with you in the comments, so go ahead and do that. While you're there, hit that subscribe button and become a Durbanian. Next to the subscribe button is that bell. When you click that, you'll be notified the moment I drop new videos, reviews, trailer reactions, or whatever else is coming out here, and I'm really excited to do all of that as well. So hit that bell, like and share this video. I'm Durbin. Thank you for checking out Durbania.